It's an arms race, and at least in the Pac-12, USC is winning that arms race. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We seem to be jumping on here every couple hours with news, and we love it. And always enjoy the conversation with you. Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff Award winner as the top wide receiver in college football, has chosen USC, not unexpectedly. So it took some time for whatever reason, whether that was for show or there was legitimate concern and consideration elsewhere to places like Alabama and most notably and most recently Texas. Jordan Addison has landed where we all expected him to land as of the reports a few weeks ago from Pittsburgh to USC. And what a weapon for Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, opposite Mario Williams. So it makes Mario Williams more dangerous on the other side. Jordan Addison, 100 catches last year for just under 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns in a Pitt offense that was prolific. And I guess we'll never know. We can speculate how much of Kenny Pickett's status and selection as a number one draft pick in the NFL draft, the only first-round quarterback, is thanks to Jordan Addison and his ability to get open, his ability to outfight defenders when he wasn't open, and just his remarkable pass-catching skills, route running, speed, elusiveness, the entire package for the Pitt Panthers in setting up Kenny Pickett for the NFL draft. Now he moves to USC, and he is teamed with a quarterback in Caleb Williams, who, even though he was a bit raw, even though he missed and did not play because Spencer Rattler was the starter the first few games of the season at Oklahoma, quickly took the reins, showed us in his initial splash into college football against Texas what he's capable of. And now as an elite runner and passer, he gets a weapon the likes of Jordan Addison. And this is good news, again, for Mario Williams as well, the transfer wide receiver from Oklahoma, one of the best wide receivers out of high school who signed at OU, caught 35 passes last year. He should receive all sorts of targets because of the attention that's going to go on the opposite side of the field. So Lincoln Riley's happy, Caleb Williams is happy, Mario Williams is happy, USC fans are happy, and Jordan Addison is obviously happy as well. From a football standpoint, from a monetary standpoint, based on reports and rumors and speculation out there, I don't know how much of it's confirmed. He should be a happy man from that standpoint as well. But as always, we appreciate everybody being here, and this is our goal. This is our mission, is to be here when news breaks in college football. I will not be the one breaking the news. It's been suggested to me in the past, Mark, you should, try to uncover this and that and try to get out in front of breaking news. Why would I do that? No, we respond to the breaking news. There are zillions of outlets out there that have far more resources than I do. I'm one guy, so there's no reason in this day and age, especially when we can find out seconds later after the story breaks and have the same amount of information as everybody else, that we respond. We are in the analysis business here at the Voice of College Football, and we are simulcasting both on the USC network and on the main channel. Keep in mind that we're talking Miami football at 8 o'clock Eastern time. I want to take your comments concerning Jordan Addison. Caught 60 passes the year before his 100-catch season of 2021 in the shortened season of 2020. There is one guy I guarantee that's in this chat, and that's got to be Tim. And he's basically just going to tell us, I told you so. We're going to be even better than I thought. We are armed and ready to roll and going to score 50 points a game. Got to check on that offensive line, though. We'll have to do a deep dive on the USC offensive line at some point to see. I think we've seen in the past a number of times in which an offense has every component from a skill position player standpoint. But if they don't have the offensive line, they're still going to rack up a ton of yards, ton of points, but they're going to do most of that damage against the lesser part of the schedule, against the 2 or 3 opponents that count on the defensive side. And for this season, it would be Notre Dame and Utah in particular. Those would be the 2 best defenses USC is going to face this year. Yes. After that, I'd have to do some study and some research to figure out, okay, what other capable defenses is USC going to face? But Notre Dame and Utah are at the top. That's going to be the offensive line and Caleb Williams' decision-making, I would say, are the 2 biggest components to USC going from, okay, prolific offense against marginal opponents to truly a great offense that can operate against great defense or really strong defense. There's a difference there. We see offenses in college football rack up 45, 50 points against most of the schedule, rack up 500, 600 yards against most of the schedule, hit a really good defense, and get limited to 17 points and 320 yards of total offense. But it's the prolific offense. It's the offense that has, again, I think the 2 biggest components in this: offensive line, decision-making by the quarterback, and then we could also throw in ability of the play caller / the passing game coordinator to scheme an attack for that particular week that works, adjust off of it based on what the defense brings, and then also call the right plays in the right situations. It's one thing to draw up a lot of fancy plays that are effective. They're really good plays conceptually, but to be able to do it at the right time, there's a lot of moving parts there. And so for USC, I think that the key to this offense, it's going to score a ton of points and rack up yardage. The stat sheet at the end of the year, I would be shocked if it's not impressive, if it's not one of the top 10 to 15 offenses statistically in college football. But again, the difference against Notre Dame and Utah, and there might be a few other hot spots in that schedule to look out for. Oregon State on the road, of course, is one to look out for. And we'll see how good UCLA is, Arizona State and others. But Utah and Notre Dame in particular, is USC one of those former offenses that I described that's prolific when everything's working, when the blocks can be made up front? Or can it execute when the quarterback's harassed, when the receivers don't get as much separation, when there's not as much running room, the quarterback's got to get it out of his hands within 2.5 seconds. All of those things add up. Can the offense still score? Of course, you're not going to score 50 against Utah like you did against Rice, but can you score in the low 30s to mid 30s to win the game and not get held to 20? All right. Matthew, good to see you, man. Thanks for being here, the voice of college football. Fight the on. Let's go. I don't know what else can happen in this offseason that's going to get Tim any more fired up. I know that he's just flat out fired up and ready to roll, wants to see Rice so he can see 60 points and then get onto a real opponent, and he just can't wait to see it all come together. I'm not quite to that degree where I think USC is just going to roll. At the same time, I'm not discounting anybody as being an automatic loss either. So while I'm not counting up the wins, racking up the wins automatically for USC like many people are, I'm also not discounting anyone being an automatic loss. They're not playing Alabama. They're not playing fill in the blank of a couple other teams across the nation. They can beat everybody on their schedule. Now, the odds of that happening are minuscule, but still they can beat everyone on the schedule. So if you would tell me right now USC is going to go 12-0, I would say, really? Well, okay, they could, because they're as good, if not better, than anybody on the schedule. And if there's 2 teams that are better, then they are barely better. Tim says, Graham told us we were going to average 50 points per game. He was right, even if he won't be here. Can you imagine Caleb throwing to Addison, Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, Bryant Jr., Kyle Ford, Washington, etc.? Anthony's asking, who leaves after the addition of Addison in the wide receiver room? Well, certainly none of the guys that you would think that were just named. So, for as much transfer portal as we talk about here, I would never promote myself as a transfer portal expert. So somebody educate me on this point, but I believe that we know that anybody in the transfer portal had to be entered into the transfer portal by May 1st. We know that May 1st was the deadline, not to make a decision, but to enter the transfer portal. So if no one is entered in the transfer portal yet, the next window, I am not clear on when that would be, but I believe that this window is set for the coming 22 season. So I would not think that anybody would be leaving USC. And if it is, it's going to be somebody who wasn't going to touch the ball anyway. CJ Williams, yes. There you go, Mark. Exactly. So someone could leave, but they won't be eligible to play in 2022. Edward says, so we're convinced Amani Jackson not to go to Alabama. Now we convinced Jordan not to go to Alabama as well. Anyone else? I feel like Nick Saban's dynasty is about to start imploding. Imploding is a big, strong word. Alabama still got the best football program in the country. And if you want to check out our comments concerning the Saban-Fisher fight, that is the most vehement, venomous, blunt, straightforward fight that I have seen between college football coaches ever. I cannot remember anything close to it. College football coaches by nature are respectful of each other. And even when they're not, they are publicly. And then even when they're not publicly, they just choose not to speak. And they make their silence the obvious indication of how they feel about somebody else. Because college football coaches, what do? All the time? They just show respect and admiration for their opponent and for the coaches in their league and across the country. You see it constantly. And I think most of it's genuine. And then even if they don't believe that the individual deserves it, they still honor and respect the decorum and the class of giving that person and their title respect. And then typically you just get a thread of evidence through maybe one quick jab or a kind of offhand remark, or again, silence when they don't praise another coach. That typically is the indicator that they're not too impressed or have an issue with that coach. But to just come out swinging, firing, these are not words that you just take back. Acts like God, czar of college football, thinks he's the czar of college football. Despicable. And basically Saban saying that Jimbo Fisher cheats. Otherwise, what would he have to say? If he's not saying flat out that he's cheating, he has an issue with NIL as it stands for everyone, but why would he be calling on Jimbo Fisher? If he just has an issue with NIL, which he does, he would be saying everyone is doing things I don't like, but they're legal, so I'm not going to point out any particular program or coach, but that's exactly what Nick Saban's doing. All right, back to the USC talk here. Appreciate Corey being here. Mark's here. Tim's here. One Blue Love 23 is here. Asaya says USC has not even played a down of football in this new era. Just wait to see the flock of recruits come when USC is actually good and proves it on the field. Well, Terry, you are making an accusation right there about USC and Lincoln Riley. And if that so is the case, then we've got a tampering issue and it should be investigated and it should be punished. But that's what we are facing. One Blue Love, you are doing a great job, Mark. Thank you. I mean, you came on almost right away. We did our best. Actually, I would have been on earlier, but we were recording a segment with Washington State head coach Jake Dickert, so be looking out for that on the main channel. Washington State head coach Jake Dickert was a tremendous interview, very gracious, kind. It was fun. And we got to hear about his program and the development of Cam Ward at quarterback. So I was in the midst of recording that when I found the news. John says Jimbo and Nick sniping at each other isn't really news. They used to get into screaming matches on the practice field. Well, it is news, John, because they used to get into screaming matches on the practice field. All sorts of coaches do that. Nobody, again, I've been watching the sport since 1977, and I beg anybody to give me one example of two head coaches in college football. The only thing I can think close to it was a physical situation between John Calipari when he was at UMass and the Temple coach. Oh my goodness, this is how far I'm removed from college basketball. The old Temple coach that was there forever. Wow. See, that's the kind of name I would never have thought would ever leave my mind. But anyway, that was 25 years ago that they got into it like physically face to face. But I'm talking about like that was involving an official's call. It was just isolated to a game. Like, this is a big topic. This is not just saying, I didn't like how you acted on the court and yelled at that official or tried to intimidate one of our players. That's an isolated incident. That's just behavior during the game. This is serious stuff. These are serious accusations that Nick Saban is firing at Jimbo Fisher. And so Nick Saban is being specific to NIL and Jimbo Fisher's pursuit of this 2022 recruiting class. Then Jimbo Fisher comes back with, well, Nick Saban has been doing this kind of stuff forever. Go look for it. And Jimbo Fisher can't lose with the comment that he made about the skeletons in Nick Saban's closet, because either, number one, the media is just going to take Jimbo Fisher's word for it as well. If he's willing to call out Nick Saban and say that this is the way he's operated for years, and we wouldn't want to find out what he's been capable of doing in the past, then he must be serious about that. And he's calling out Nick Saban for having done a lot of unethical things in the past. So we'll just take his word for it. Or Jimbo Fisher can think half the media is going to do that, and then another portion of the media is going to actually go and do what I suggested they do and go try to dig up dirt on Nick Saban, go talk to former players and coaches and find out what the truth is. This is not the type thing, because we don't see it very often. There are a lot of little scuffles within the game that get brushed under the rug and the two parties are able to go on. But we are talking again about not criticism of behavior in a particular situation, or he ran up the score on me, so the next time I get the chance, I'm going to run up the score on him. We're talking about two grown men at the top of their profession who are just wailing, just haymakers at each other concerning their professionalism, their integrity, their character, and basically saying that each other has cheated. One Blue Love 23 is telling us that the offensive line of USC is good, just needs more depth. Okay. Well, me not knowing right as we stand right now, the USC offensive line and how good it is, I've not looked into it. I was just conjecturing that everybody's excited about the pieces on offense. I was just questioning the offensive line, not from the standpoint questioning, saying it's awful, but just questioning to say, we'll see. Graded out very high by Pro Football Focus. Mozart's not a big fan. He wants Lincoln Riley to fall flat on his face on the big stage. Yeah, Tim, this is the word I get from Matt Zemek is that the defensive line is the question. Inside. Okay, you guys have convinced me the offensive line is going to be good. Okay. Joey likes all this just because it hurts Pitt football. Okay, we got a question coming in from Willie. Mark, who is better, Jordan Addison or Jackson Smith-Njigba? Well, how much Pitt football did I see last year? I did not see much of the ACC championship game. I saw Pitt play most of the game against Clemson. I saw most of the game against Miami. I saw Pitt play probably North Carolina. And they didn't play any big non-conference games, did they? They lost to Western Michigan. I did not watch that game. I saw the bowl game against Michigan State, but because of the quarterback situation, I don't know that Addison had a big game against Michigan State. They didn't score many points. I know in looking at the highlights versus what I've seen of, and let's understand that I've seen much more of JSN, that Smith-Njigba appears to me to be a slightly better player. But you can't go wrong with either one, and I'm not saying that he is. I'm saying that I've seen more of him, and his games against Nebraska and Utah were ridiculous. And he also was able to put up those kind of numbers with two other players. So there's on one hand, the argument that Addison had all the targets, had the offense focused and centered around him, therefore he was going to produce that much, versus the argument is that Addison had the focus of the defense, and the defense wanted to bottle him up first and foremost and let other guys try to beat them, while Jackson Smith-Njigba, for as good as he is, still had two top half of the first round selections with him, and that took coverage away from him. Phil Parker called it. Phil, I don't think there's a soul on this chat that did not call Jordan Addison to USC, but thank you for letting us know. Roger Dodger, USC has a good quarterback, good system, not a hard choice for Addison. Joey, appreciate you being here. And Joey being here is a reminder that we talk West Virginia football with all of you Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be here for West Virginia football, not on the USC channel if you're watching us here on the USC channel, but we're simulcasting on the main and USC channels. On Friday, 8 Eastern, you can join us on the West Virginia channel. You can join us on the main channel for West Virginia football talk. We've got a great show on Friday nights talking West Virginia football with Golden Blue Dude, Travis Kenobi, and Justin Walker. Edward says, problem will be getting into a shootout. Will our defense be able to get stops, force turnovers? Is there enough depth to stave off injuries? Exploring with Ben, congratulations on your new green screen. Exploring with Ben, thank you so much for reminding everybody. I got 262 people on the line. We appreciate you all being here, and I know you just want to talk college football, but for 30 seconds, I'm going to let you know that please, when you shop Amazon, use the link that we provide. If you spend $100 at Amazon, they're going to get $100. And they're worth 1.6 trillion. Can any of us fathom how much money that is? 1.6 trillion. But if you shop on Amazon and you spend $100 and you use our link, then the Voice of College Football gets $3 or $4 or $5. Amazon gets their 94 or 5, 6. You still spend $100. Doesn't cost you a penny. Same shopping experience. Well said, Exploring with Ben. Thank you. Tim says, we will forgive Mark. He is listening to the national media about our offensive line. Yes, so I'm going to uncover a secret that I probably shouldn't tell everyone. I probably should keep up the myth that I know everything and everybody in college football. That I know how good every position unit is for every team in the country. I should probably not have said that because I think that's a belief of some of you out there that I know the Iowa State safeties by heart, and I know them right this second and how good they are. Now, sometime in the summer, I'll get to a pretty good point where I've got a good handle on the position units for most of the major teams in the country. But as we stand right now, consider that just about all the head coaches in the country don't even have a good handle on all their position units themselves. If you said to the TCU head coach, Sonny Dykes, how good is your linebacking core right now? I don't know. I don't know how good they're going to be. Roger Dodger says, put Mario Williams and Jordan Addison on the same side of the field and watch the DB's legs go jello. Yeah. Well, you can do all that fun. I'm basically, when I kept saying that Mario Williams would be on the other side of the field, you know what I mean. Of course, yeah, you put them as twins on one side of the field. You separate that. You do everything. Keep the defense guessing. You can have fun with them in all sorts of different ways, different alignments. So yes, this is not 1985, and I don't expect that Jordan Addison's going to be on one side of the field and Mario Williams on one side of the field every play with a tight end and two backs. And yes, this is a different day and age. I was just kind of making the point that Addison is going to draw attention away from Mario Williams. Opens up the running game. Phil says, would you want to bet against USC winning the Pac-12? Not with even odds, I would not. But if I received good odds, I'd take a chance. But no. I am not betting against USC. I am going to be doing my homework during the off season, during the summer, to figure out if there's a team outside of USC and Utah that could possibly challenge those two. Of course, the likely candidate is Oregon. But now that we've got a 1 versus 2 matchup, then it's not so much about the USC Utah winner taking on whomever, Oregon. It's about the Utah USC winner possibly playing a rematch. And then, of course, determining USC Utah, who's going to be better by season's end. So as long as one of them does not play themselves out of the conference race and at least the number 2 position, they're going to see each other again in the championship game. Blackie Chan Plays is asking, is there a better offense on paper than USC? Ohio State's better. Not by a ton. Not by a ton. But I would say the wide receiver core is better and deeper. Not better by a ton. Deeper. The offensive line is, I believe, slightly better, regardless of what I'm hearing about USC's offensive line. Ohio State's got a top 5+ offensive line in the country, something in that range. Better quarterback at this point. Caleb Williams is a dynamic runner, passer, so he's got that all over CJ Stroud. So if Caleb Williams can become anything close to the passer that CJ Stroud is, then he's going to be a better quarterback because he's got that dimension that Stroud does not have. But as of right now, Stroud's a better quarterback, and at running back, Ohio State's better. So I think they're a little bit better at every position on offense. Alabama. That's a close call as well. Bryce Young, Caleb Williams. Got to say that Bryce Young's better right now, but they're similar players. Caleb Williams is a more physically imposing player, runner that will intimidate defensive backs, smallest defensive backs in the secondary when he splits a gap in the pocket and decides to run. Nobody wants to get in his way in the secondary, as opposed to Bryce Young's a little guy. But they're similar in skill set past that. The Bama running game is, well, you got certainly the Stanford running back that transferred to USC and Travis Dye. But I'm going to go with Bama's backs, with Jahmyr Gibbs leading the way, Roydell Williams and Trey Sanders. The wide receivers go USC's way, and that's a big statement right there. Alabama's had the best wide receivers in college football most of the last 5 years, and now to say USC's better at wideout, I don't think they're more talented, but the Bama receivers have not proven anything now with Williams, Mechie, and Bolden gone. They did bring in, well, they lost Ajay Hall to Texas, but they brought in, of course, Jermaine Burton. So USC's got Bama at wide receiver. I go Bama offensive line, Bama at quarterback slightly, even though Caleb Williams with his frame has the potential to be a more durable and punishing runner than Bryce Young, and Bama at running back. So I'll say Ohio State and Alabama are better offenses than USC. And since all sorts of people complain about me being behind in the chat, I am going to catch up with the chat, see where you guys stand here. Willie says, no way Gibbs is better than Ryan Day at calling plays. Dwayne, good to see you here at the Voice of College Football. Go Ducks. See you're an Oregon fan. How many wins does Sark need in Texas to not get run out of Austin this year? I would think that even a marginal season is going to keep him around. I don't think they're going to fire him after 2 years unless this season is disastrous. One of the big reasons why is because they are recruiting out of their minds at Texas. They've just brought in a top 5 to 6 class in the country, and that is going to help offset, let's say, a 7-5 season. I think that if he goes 7-5, he's safe. If he goes less than 7-5, they might think this is not going the right way, and we got plenty of money. Let's get the right guy in here. We need the right guy before we step into the SEC. So I'm not saying it's impossible that he gets fired after 2 seasons. I don't understand why Steve Sarkisian has the job anyway. And I'm on record of saying that before he was hired, and right after he got hired, before the awful 5-7 season. Why? What has he done? What did he do at USC? What did he do at Washington that was anything to earn him a job at a great program? I don't know. I don't get it. You guys must take in football much more effectively than I do. And maybe you do. Maybe I'm just watching too many games and I can't focus in on one team or a couple teams. But can I make a call on who plays better, Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day? No, I can't. I would be curious to hear the explanation of why anyone would be able to determine whether Lincoln Riley's a better play caller or Ryan Day. And I know people don't want to hear this, but I think play calling is overrated. All right. It's good of Dave to be here to let us know that in 30 minutes, we've got our Miami Live show. We've got Miami Live coming up. That's our next show at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We know that everyone will be joining us for that. Wholesome one. That is always a good time. We always slice it up. Here it is. Next show, Miami Hurricanes Live. Thank you for the reminder, Dave. Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Why Miami? Well, homegrown Cowboy, we've got a Miami show, Florida State, USC. While we're on the subject of USC, I hope all of you know that care about USC football that we're here live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific time for USC Live. But yeah, Miami, Florida State, West Virginia, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oklahoma, Iowa, Nebraska, all sorts of team shows here at the Voice of College Football. See, there you go. Kirby's Pfizer takes Day over Riley. Roger Dodger, Notre Dame defensive backs just got an inch shorter today. Indeed, they did. DM 49ers, Utah defense has no answer for USC offense. They still have to respect Caleb's running, and the tight ends can catch and block. I would not underestimate the Utah defense. Thank you, Mark. Lincoln Riley himself said play calling is overrated. I heard him say last month in a presser. It's important. There's no questioning it's important. Yeah. There's a reason they put a ton of time into it. Yes. Matchups in space, determining when to call plays. First of all, designing plays that are effective, and then determining when to call them, what situations, what spots on the field, against what type of defense, what type of personnel packages. All that is complicated, and it takes football knowledge. It takes a knack. It takes a feel for the game. It takes a feel for your players, their players, all that. So I'm not underestimating it, but I hear all football season from all sorts of people constantly after every game about play calling. This game was lost because of play calling. This play was horrible. That play was horrible. You will hear me say about 5 to 10 times. That's it. For all the football that we talk here, the entire season, there's only going to be 5 to 10 times that I'm going to say that was a bad play call. And I'll have a reason to say it. I will specifically lay it out to say, this is why I believe that was a bad play call. I'm more prepared and equipped to determine when a game is mismanaged from the standpoint of strategy and time management. I major more on that. But in terms of play calling, well, the play didn't work because the players didn't execute the play. Willie is educating himself and the rest of us on Caleb Williams. And Willie I've been noticing this from Willie in recent days, that he's researching these teams and these players to let us know what the real deal is. Yes, Caleb Williams did not have the best game against Iowa State, or if you check out the Baylor numbers, I don't know what the stats were, but the Oklahoma offense against Baylor was stymied in that game as well. So, yep, Caleb Williams, he was only a freshman, though. He was only a freshman. You guys would not believe, and I don't know how many of you were around to hear at this point, how I had to defend CJ Stroud after the Minnesota game and after the Oregon game. And because Ohio State didn't play a good team for another 5 or 6 weeks after that, to a certain extent, even after he started to light up teams after that, because he had not done it against a good team, it was deep into the season. I was still telling people how good CJ Stroud is. Not that he didn't make mistakes against Minnesota, but it was the first time he had ever thrown a pass in a collegiate game. So let's understand that these guys are not perfect. And Caleb Williams did have some rough patches last year, but he was just a freshman. And those were his first games. Yes, don't sleep on the Utes. I'm going to love watching opening weekend with Ohio State, Notre Dame, Utah, Florida, Georgia, Oregon, which I'm not expecting to be a great game. It's a big game. It's an important game for the Pac-12, but it's an important game for national perspective on things, but I don't think that Oregon is ready for that one. Yes, true freshman. True freshman. CJ Stroud had never thrown a pass in a collegiate game, but he had a full season prior to that to get on the field against Michigan State. He also had, never discount a player who's been able to be on campus for a full year, even if he didn't get into games, and just run through the offense, go through full conditioning in the winter, spring practice, summer practice, the whole deal. Whoa, Nelly, college football game says Vegas is sleeping in the Utes with that betting line. It's about even, I believe. At Florida, that's a tough trip to make from Utah to Gainesville. Difficult environment. That's a different game for Utah to play. They typically stay on their side of the country. They typically play BYU, Utah State, Mountain West teams. They went to Michigan about, 10 or 12 years ago and won when Michigan was awful. But when has Utah gone anywhere else besides that trip to Michigan? For them to go to Florida, that's a big deal. Remrick is saying we've only played 7 SEC schools in our history. Well, there was the Alabama game in the 2008 Sugar Bowl. Utah, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky. I can't remember them playing anybody else. That's the only SEC game I can remember off the top of my head that Utah's played. The rest of them must have been, forever ago. 2008 was the last one. DM 49ers, Utah has only won the conference one time. Well, they've only been in the conference for 10 years. If they want respect, they need to do it twice. Oh, I get that. No respect for one conference championship, bunch of respect for 2 conference championships, and win a Rose Bowl. At least they haven't done either yet. Okay, they've only been in the conference for 10 years. So consider this. Utah, in winning the conference and going to the Rose Bowl, has done pretty much as USC has done in the last 10 years. Let's give this week 1 a quick look. Let's do that. We all know the big games. How about the under the radar games? Week 0, the way week 0 plays out, I will watch anybody play in week 0 because I'm just starved for football. There's usually no good games, and I will just watch anybody. So there's typically about 4 teams I see in week 0 that I will not watch the rest of the season. You know, the Colorado States and the Utah States of the world that I will never watch the rest of the year. Not because I refuse to watch them, just because there's always better games. So week 0, of course, if I could only watch one game, it would be Nebraska Northwestern. But outside of that game, there's really nothing there, but I will watch any of these games. If I had to choose one other game, Wyoming and Illinois, that should be a close game. Okay, let's go to week 1. On Thursday, Penn State at Purdue. I don't hear a whole lot of people trumping that game. Don't hear a lot of noise about Penn State at Purdue. That's a really good matchup. West Virginia at Pitt, of course. Joey. And really, it's a 2-game. There's about a dozen games on that Thursday night, September 1st, but those are the 2 games. Penn State, Purdue, West Virginia, Pitt. Now, unfortunately, they're probably going to be on at the same time because I want to see both of those games. My priority would be Penn State and Purdue, but I really want to see both of those games. On Friday, there are really TCU at Colorado. Okay. Illinois, Indiana, the Big Ten with consecutive days of Big Ten conference games. Week 1. Western Michigan. Western Michigan beat Pitt last year, and they go to Michigan State. That could be a trouble spot for Sparty. Then on Saturday, we've got Utah State at Alabama. Cincinnati, Arkansas. Love that game. Love that game. Cincinnati at Arkansas. Utah at Florida. Boise State at Oregon State's a good under-the-radar game, week 1. Rutgers at Boston College. Not bad. Anytime 2 Power 5 conference teams get together, I'm interested. And then, of course, there's Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Houston, UTSA. It's a nice game. Okay. That opening Saturday, my number 1 priority is, guess, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Number 2, if I could watch a second game, Ohio State, Notre Dame would be if I could only watch one game. If I can watch a second game, my number 2 game would be Utah, Florida. It edges Arkansas, Cincinnati. That's my number 3 game. And then I'm going to go with, just because of the brand names, even though I think it's going to be a rout, Georgia, Oregon. And then Boise State, Oregon State, number 5. And then, of course, what's great about opening weekend is we get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So on Sunday night, of course, Florida State, LSU. We just did a big preview on our Florida State show. Check it out with Carter. Carter from LSU Power Hour joined us for Florida State Live. And Clemson, Georgia Tech on Monday. We could have done better with a Monday night game on opening weekend. We could have done better than Clemson, Georgia Tech. Why? All right. Nice little crowd here. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. No, we're not taking a break. We just need to switch channels here. So we need to shut down here. We appreciate you joining us for the Jordan Addison news. And we move on to our Miami channel. So check us out there. Miami live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you have trouble finding any of these channels, if you just put in either Mark Rogers TV or Voice of College Football in the team, Voice of College Football Florida, Voice of College Football Alabama, you should be able to find it. And so join us in about 5 minutes for Miami Live. See you then. West Virginia, Friday night.